You are now listening to the Minority Trailblazer podcast. Let the story begin.
One time for the lovers, two times for the ladies, three times for the brothers, four times for the babies. Do you love her? 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 One time for the lovers, two times for the ladies, three times for the brothers, four times for the babies. Do you love her? 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 Brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. Brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. She my brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. She my brown skin, love her brown skin. Hold me down.
Welcome to the Minority Trailblazer podcast, and I'm your host, Greg, the culture change agent. Man, it's Friday. I know you just got off of work. I apologize for dropping this a day late. Last night, I had a keynote at Marine Joy High School. Shout out to Mariel Smith, amazing teacher out there, inviting me. I had a phenomenal time. The message is called Cut Your Strings. It's going to be on YouTube soon. On that note, before I get into the podcast, before I get into our story, I always do my story before the podcast. I have a couple housekeeping things. One, if you're listening via iTunes, make sure you leave a review. Two, I got the tour dates, right? The tour dates: Durham, North Carolina, June 24th, Saturday. Charlotte, North Carolina, July 8th. Washington, D.C., July 15th. Atlanta, Georgia, July 22nd, Houston, Texas, July 29th, and Brooklyn, New York, August 8th. Those are the dates. More information coming soon. I'm going to have a Trailblazer Live team. So for people that are interested, not only just attending, but being a part of curating the event as well, if you go to gregehill.com/MTP Live. Once again, MTP Live. You can go there and it has a link, a Google form that will ask for information to see what areas you can help with the event and all that good stuff. So ticket information will be available shortly. So definitely check us out online, gregehill.com/MTP Live. I can't wait to come visit y'all, share the guests that I have that I'm going to be interviewing. Also, we're going to have a Thrive event after. So a lot of networking, a lot of intentional conversation, and a lot of building amongst positive, like-minded individuals. I might even have some branding sessions beforehand, or y'all can pick my brain. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm excited to meet everybody. So hopefully you can attend. There will be a cost. I don't know how much it is just yet. I'm getting all the venue stuff straight right now, but man, it's going to be a great cost. I might have some merchandise on sale as well. So it's going to be a great experience. So definitely make sure y'all show out and show some love. Also, remember, March 2018, Minority Trailblazer Conference. You can go to minoritytrailblazer.com to get more information. Got that coming out soon. It's just going to be a great summer. My own motivational album coming out soon. So you can tell I'm excited. Next on the housekeeping thing, or we do now have a YouTube channel, Minority Trailblazer on YouTube. And I'm going to be putting all the podcasts on YouTube as well. So for those that listening outside of the US, they don't have iTunes, y'all can listen to on YouTube. So I can't wait to share. Please engage. I know season 4, season 5, we're going to do a lot better job of having the website and having different mediums so you can engage with not only myself, but also the people you have on the podcast. But if you're listening on SoundCloud, leave comments on this YouTube channel. Leave comments. Let me know questions you have and whatnot. And so we can just build together. So as we get into the podcast, this is what I got to do. This is what I got to do to kind of paint the picture. As we get into the podcast, before we get into the podcast, I want to share this story. My high school student, she is a phenomenal student. She's graduating. She's going to my alma mater, North Carolina A&T State University. Shout out to the Aggies out there, Aggie Pride. And she is short on money. She's not short on money, but she doesn't want to go into a lot of debt. And she want to raise $7,000. So I've seen her creativity live. She's a poet. She does all this great stuff via poetry. She creates like documentaries, and she's just a phenomenal student. And she sent me a link to a GoFundMe to fund her college. $7,000 was her goal. I immediately said, Jada, give me a call, please, if you would like some suggestions. So she hit me up, and we had a talk, and I was like, yo, I love what you're trying to do, but I think there's a better way to do it. You're a high schooler, you're 18 years old, you have phenomenal gift of communication via storytelling. You can curate stuff, you can document stuff, you can visually storytell. Why not have an event, right? You open up, call it a premiere, do a 10-minute documentary for things about Durham, or I don't know. You come up with the documentary, the video. After that, have a slam poetry contest. Then after that, have a real talk session about what teens have to go through in high school, because I think a lot of older people are out of touch about what teens are really dealing with. We call them lazy. We say they're on social media too much, but we never really pick their brains and ask questions. So why not have all those three things in one, make it a 2-hour event, charge $10. I'll help you promote. I'll pay for the venue, and let's get it done. I think that's a better way to raise $7,000 instead of donating. I mean, just asking people to donate via GoFundMe, because GoFundMe, that just keeps people that's in your direct vicinity, or people that's directly affiliated you, to donate. But I can't go to my church member, and I can, but that's probably going to be a tough sell saying donate to this girl that you don't know. I mean, you probably have cousins and nieces and nephews that are going to be hitting up for that graduation money and all that other stuff. However, if you say, man, I have this dope high school student that's trying to raise funds, and she's having a poetry contest, she's having a real talk session about how teens are affected in high school and what they go through. Also, she's debuting her own documentary. Boom. That's an easy sell. I can tell that to all my friends. We can all support. We'll donate. She's created t-shirts on her own too, so we can buy merch, like all that stuff. So now I guarantee she's gonna get her $7,000-$8,000 she need for college without having to do anything but utilize her only God-given gifts. So why do I say that? Why do I start this podcast off with that? Because every single one of us that's listening, whether we're in college, whether we're grown, I'm not telling y'all to start your own business. I'm not telling y'all to be an entrepreneur, but you have gifts, you have talents, you have abilities that you possess right now, but you're not using them. You're doing things you should not be doing. You're operating in a sense like like you're missing something, but you're not. I said it in the podcast before, you are the answer to your solution. Just believe that you are the answer to your own solution. She came asking for $7,000, and now I gave her an idea that utilizing her own unique talents, she's about to get what she asked for. So a lot of y'all have in your head what you're asking for, what you need out of life, but I'm telling you, you have it in you. You have it around you. Have resources, people. She reached out. I asked before I gave her feedback. Some people don't ask when we just get feedback. I asked, but utilize your resources. Like with this conference, it's crazy. It blows my mind. I asked people in the podcast on Snapchat to say, if you want to help out with the conference, you can add something to the conference or the live show, send me an email, greg@greggiehill.com. Multiple people have, and now we are building something special. We're having meetings every week, and I'm excited about it because I asked. I need help. I need sponsors. I need venue ideas. I need people helping out with strategy and strategic partnerships. I cannot do it on my own. I am still a speaker, one of the best speakers under 30 in the country. I'll put that out there. I still write. I'm writing my third book. I still am working on other creative projects. So just having this community, working with people, and we're going to build together. It's not just about me. We're going to build together. So for all those out there, just put your dreams in the atmosphere. Allow people to help you, and realizing you already have the gift. So let's get into the podcast. I am pumped up and I'm excited because I am interviewing a fellow podcaster, and she has an amazing, phenomenal podcast. This interview, man, is bubbly, it's energetic, it's direct. It's one of my best and most fun experiences because you have somebody that knows how to talk, and it's just an easy conversation, an easy flow. So I'm going to read a snippet of her bio, and then we just going to jump right into it because I know I've already been talking too long. Because some people like this stuff, right? But some people are like, yo, great, let's get to the guest. So I got y'all. She is a marketing strategist, freelance writer, content creator, and the host of the Dreams and Drive podcast, a podcast she launched in January 2016 that teaches individuals how to take their entrepreneurial dreams out of park and into drive. With over 80 episodes in her arsenal, she's interviewed top leaders in lifestyle and business and was featured as an empowering podcast by Essence Magazine and a top business podcast for Black Voices on Apple Podcasts. Her work has been featured in Madame Noir, Blavity, Huffington Post, Fox 5, Good Day New York, XO Jane, and many more media outlets. She is also a 2013 graduate of Princeton University and a proud graduate of the Emma Bourne Foundation Media Program. When she isn't marketing or podcasting, she enjoys practicing her fashion photography skills, taking her favorite heels dance classes, snuggling up to a good book or movie, and writing poetry. Without further ado, as you can tell in my voice, I'm excited. I'm nervous. I don't know what it is. I don't know what I'm feeling, but I'm just excited having the show. Rana Campbell to the Minority Trailblazer podcast. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Greg. Oh my God, that intro was amazing. I need to steal that for my show. Right. Might have to put that up on my walls like an audiogram. Every time you come into my room, you could just play your intro you just did.
I don't know how that will work. You have some other company come in and they hear this dude saying, "Welcome to the," like, hold up, what? Take the what and leave the what?
Like, what? Who's this? You got him in your
room. You woke up like that. Like, that's cool. That's funny. Yo, I'm pumped up. I really am. It's early Saturday morning, but I have a great conversation. So as we always do, if you're listening to the show, you already know what the show's about. So take us away. Please give us a quote that you live by and a story about how you apply that quote to your everyday life.
Ooh, that's a good one. I think I've been saying this quote all year, and it's actually somebody that I interviewed on my podcast, episode 20, Lori Swink. Her advice was jump and build your wings on the way down. And I think that's kind of been my philosophy for the past, year or so, of just not looking at obstacles as obstacles, but seeing them as new opportunities to fly. Sometimes we don't want to do stuff because we're scared. Sometimes we think we don't have what it takes, but you may not even know that you've had wings already, right? And you may not even go down. You might not even have to put your wings out. You might just be flying from the time that you start. So I think that's something that's really been motivating my life, is just taking jumps and not thinking about what if I fail, but more about what if I fly.
Now I said a speech. How have you used that quote? Like what's the last time as you just jumped off that roof and it's like, dang, I don't know if I even got that parachute. I don't know how this is going to rock. Like, take us to that moment.
I remember a few weeks ago, I was just thinking about my business. I was trying to I've been putting off asking for sponsors. I've been putting off just even monetizing the business. And I'm part of a group mastermind, and every 2 weeks we get together and we talk about our goals, and we talk about our mission, and we talk about, what we're working on. And every week my goal was to start monetizing and to start asking for sponsors. But I just kept making excuses. I'm like, I don't have a media kit. I don't have enough listeners. No one wants to be on my show. I was just making up all these stuff. And so my fellow mastermind group members, they just challenged me to be like, Rana, just do it. Stop making excuses. And so let's say this happened on a Monday. By Tuesday, I made my media kit. By Wednesday, I reached out to one of my previous guests who has a tech company that I thought would be a perfect fit. By Friday, they were like, all right, let's do 2 episodes in this summer. And I'm like, wow, I was just here, just standing on the cliff thinking about, oh, it's never going to work out. It's never going to be anything. And look, I got a sponsorship for 2 episodes from just jumping and figuring out how to do it once I did.
Perfect. That's practical. I can tell you do this because that was to the point. That was practical. I didn't go anywhere. Dang, I love that. I really do. So I always debate on how I want to enter podcasts. I want to enter from the origin story, enter kind of where the energy goes as far as kind of where I want to go. But I think it's necessary for this one to start with a backdrop and kind of paint the picture as we kind of, as we get into it. Where are you from? Where are you from? Who are you? What makes Rana before the podcast, before all this? Who are you?
Okay. So I am from a little town in New Jersey called Orange, New Jersey. It's like a suburb of, I call it an urban suburb because you would come here and you wouldn't think it was a suburb.
They got urban suburbs? I ain't never heard of that. That's new.
Because like if you're where are you from, Greg?
I'm from Bull City, Durham, North Carolina. Stand up 919.
Okay. So, so the thing is, like in New Jersey, there's like a big city. Everybody probably's heard of Newark, New Jersey. Have you heard of Newark, New Jersey?
Yeah, because I interned at Rutgers. I mean, I interned at Johnson & Johnson in Skillman, New Jersey, and I stayed at Rutgers, so I'm pretty familiar.
Okay. So like Newark is like probably like the biggest like city. I think it's the biggest city in New Jersey, and so like Orange is like a sub. It's like a sub city of Newark, if you think about that. So I think of it of the suburbs of Newark, but it's still urban. But like the houses may be like better kept. The community may be a little bit more safer. So anyway, I grew up in Orange, New Jersey. Been here my whole life. I think that my story really can start as like a little kid. So I was like that girl who always was like crazy with ideas. Like my friends, like I was always trying to convince somebody to do something that I thought about. Right?
What's the most left one you had?
Well, we had a girl group, so it was called KRS, Katrina, Rana, Samantha, and we used to perform songs in my backyard, and we would charge people to come in.
For
But
real?
and then we started off singing Destiny's Child songs, and we got our own songs that we wrote and we made. And my dad got me this, or my mom got me this like Disney production. It was kind of like you could make your own songs and you could record it, and it was on a CD-ROM. And then my dad got me the mic, and we would be in my basement making these songs, and then we would perform them at talent shows. I kid you not, if you find somebody who went to fourth grade with me, they will still know this song that we wrote called House on the Hills. Like I still know the song. Everybody knew this song called House on the Hills.
Can I get a snippet like House on the Hills?
Okay. So I can't sing. I thought I could sing, but I really can't sing. It's like this is the chorus. I got a house on the hill with the Escalade and a Porsche 2 and a BMW.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so
and a
we
Porsche
did
2 and a BMW.
yeah, and we each had our own little parts that we would come in. And it's like my part was I'm having a party up on the hills, right? And so that was my part that I would come in. So I was always doing a lot of stuff. Like, my mom used to help me with I had this bookmark making business where I would make bookmarks, and then she would take me to Staples and I would laminate them, and then I would give them to people.
That's what happens at like urban, what do you call urban suburbia? They buy bookmarks. Like what in the world? Like I don't know, black people looking like ooh, what like buying black people buy bookmarks?
But I was also a special type of kid. People knew that I was promoting books. I was a heavy bookaholic. I really think I read all the books in Orange Public Libraries, kids libraries.
I read more books than you. I guarantee. Nobody. I was a kid that wore the read Harry Potter today. I was that guy. So
I definitely read a lot of books, and then
the Pizza Hut card. Did y'all have it in New Jersey, like the Pizza Hut thing? Like if you read a certain amount, you get like a Pizza Hut pan pizza?
No, my mom wasn't really big on junk food, so I don't think even if they did have it, I would get that Pizza Hut card. And then I went to the public schools in Orange up until 6th grade. So then in 7th grade, I kind of I was part of a program called A Better Chance that my sister had already been in for a few years. So I then started going to an independent private school in Englewood, New Jersey, which is in Bergen County, which is one of the richest counties in the United States. So imagine going from being the only black girl and being being the majority, right? And then going to an environment where, I had never been around other kids like that. I had never been in a diverse school environment like that. So going from one of many to only one was something that I think kind of changed my life and kind of set me on the trajectory to where I am today. So, where else do you want me to go? Because I could go a lot. I could go a lot.
Because I feel like you left us on the cliff. Like we're gonna get to where we need to go, but still, you're in this new spot, and now you just morphed into Rana, host of Dreams and Drive.
So 7th grade, I want to say, like when everyone asks me, and when we get to get to Princeton, a lot of people ask me, so how was Princeton for you? And I always say like Princeton was just a continuation of my like high school and middle school years. So Dwight Englewood was like a very, very preppy school. We went to school with like people who had names, like let's say like Patrick Ewing's daughter went to school with me. Like the Modells, if you heard of Modell Sporting Complex, their kids went to school with me. What do you call it? Hudson Bay, the people who own that, their kids went to school. Revlon, their kids went to school with me. So it was a very ritzy school.
Did you get a scholarship or your parents cashed out?
It was like the program that I was, you got like financial aid. So it definitely was a scholarship
Financial
with it.
aid for high school?
For middle school. Middle
What?
school. It
Financial
was
aid
like
for middle
25.
school?
Yeah, the school's like $25,000 a year or so,
What kind
I
of
think.
education they get? What kind of books y'all reading?
Listen,
Goodness gracious.
I got a good education. I really do owe Dwight Englewood for teaching me all about cultural and social capital because that year, seventh grade, really changed my life. I had to learn, like, I went through a culture shock and it was very difficult because, imagine, like, I really felt like I had to become two different Ranas. I had to become like the Dwight Englewood Rana and then the Orange, New Jersey Rana. And that was just something like I had, like, seventh grade was the year of bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs. I didn't even know any Jewish people before going to that school, and those were the best parties. To this day, I don't think I've ever been to a better party than those bat mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs. Like I was going to like the Rainbow Room in New York City, spinning dance floors. This one girl for her gift, everybody got leather jackets, and not leather, like leather jackets that I still wear today, like leather biker jackets.
What?
Yes.
I need to get some Jewish friends. I don't got no Jewish. I don't think I've ever had a Jewish friend. If you're listening to this podcast, you Jewish, please email me. Let's set up like if I'm like when we do the tour, I want to let's link like that's leather jackets.
Yeah, that wasn't normal, because they were they were very, very rich. And so, just going through seventh and eighth grade, the teaching style was different. Although I will say my elementary school in Orange, although Orange didn't have a very good school system, I had a very good teachers in my elementary school. So I kind of got like that basis. I was always a gifted and talented student. Like, I was always in the extra programs and all that stuff. My teachers used to give me like when everybody had to read like 80-page books, I had to read like the 800-page books on female mutilation in Africa. I'm like, why am I reading this? Because it was the longest book he had. Because I would just go through books so quickly. So seventh and eighth grade, kind of learned about that world. I loved it because I liked learning. I mean, I didn't want to go to Dwight Englewood. Thinking about it now, I remember going in the interview. I told the lady, my interviewing, the person who interviewed me, that I didn't want to go there. Don't accept me, please. I don't want to go here.
You said the interview that.
Yes, I told her that. I mean, she was black, so she probably felt for me. Okay. But my sister was already going to the school already. So she was like, listen, you're going to have to go here. You're smart. I'm like, no, I don't want to go here. My mom's forcing me. Please, no. I think if I had went to Orange Middle School, I don't know if I would have kind of ended out. I mean, I still probably would have had like, I would have applied myself, but I just think the opportunities were just so different, right? And so then ninth grade is when you go to high school, and that's where we got more black kids because there was this program called New Jersey Seeds, which was kind of like a better chance, but they kind of placed, people from inner cities into better schools. And that's where I met like my core group of friends. Ninth grade to 12th grade was just like kind of like the same thing. It's just that like, I think socially, I never felt like I had. Actually, no, I'll take that back. Because high school was actually probably like the social highlight of my life. Because these kids were crazy. Like the things we used to do on the week, like or Fridays, like after school, were just like ridiculous. And I'm thinking about like, how did my parents not know that?
I mean, you don't got to get too. This is a PG podcast. But what did y'all do?
I mean, okay, I'm also, when I say crazy, you think about like Rana crazy. I'm not like it was just like things like we would go to people's houses, like mansion parties. And when I say mansion parties, I mean like these were like mansion parties. We were just like, I mean, I wasn't drinking at this age, but people were just getting into like crazy things at mansion parties.
I can only imagine.
Pool parties, like all this stuff. If you ever saw like VH1, like, My Rich Life or something like that, it was kind of like that.
Are you serious? You lived that? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, but I felt like a outsider because I was going home to Orange, New Jersey. I wasn't. My mom didn't come pick me up in a Beamer. My babysitter, I should say, didn't come pick me up in a Beamer. My mom was coming to pick me up like in her Volvo. It wasn't.
Yeah, like Volvo was a big step down. Like what? I was coming with the beat up minivan. I'm like, Mom, don't. I was one of them kids like when the parents come, you like, yo, I'm like, Mom, just pick me up in the back, man. Like just like don't come to the front. My mom wouldn't want to stop at the front. I'm like, bro, what you doing?
Okay. Yeah, but that was just. I mean, thinking about it now though, but like educationally, I just like, I think it laid the foundation for a lot of the things that I was doing now. Like I was head of like the dance club. I just realized I forgot that I was head of the photography club. Like, you know, you just forget about things. I was looking at my yearbook the other day and I'm like, whoa, I was the editor of the Focal Point magazine. I forgot all about that. I did a lot of plays. I used to write a lot. I never really liked math or science. So that was always the thing that I did not like at all. And so I remember like applying to Princeton. Well, at my school, we had a very good, like pre-college program. So we had like, I think starting in sophomore year, you had to do like college visits during the summer. It counted towards your grade. We had a college advisor. And I remember making my list of schools, and I was never really like college focused. I didn't study for the SATs, although I didn't do bad, but I was never the type of person that said, okay, I have to like spend, you know, my entire high school trying to get ready for college. I was kind of had this like, this feeling that I'm going to get into a good school. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to study for the SATs and take away from other things that I want to do. So I remember not studying for the SATs. I took it twice though, and I took the SAT 2s, did not that well. But I remember when I visited Princeton one summer with my friends, we were trying to get to the College of New Jersey, but we ended up at Princeton. I don't know how. And I just felt this feeling like, I'm going to come here. Like, I was like, I'm going to come here. Like, this is a school that I want to go to. And I remember having it on my list of schools. I applied to like 11 colleges, and I got into every college except UPenn. Which is actually like the school, thinking about it now, is probably the school that I really, really wanted to go to. But I just felt when I went to Princeton that I was going to end up there. And that's what happened.
Wow, that is phenomenal. And as we kind of begin that transition to where we want to go, I did want to ask in a nutshell, kind of, if you could take away 3 things that Princeton taught you, that whole experience. I don't know what angle you want to take it, whatever the angle you see fit. And then right after that, transition to what was your first job out of college, and then we'll go where we want to go.
What did Princeton teach me? Princeton taught me a lot. Sometimes I wonder, like, I don't remember any of the educational stuff that I learned, because I just feel like sometimes college, if you're going to liberal arts school, if you're not having like a technical degree, you're not really learning like concrete things. I think it taught me the importance of research and pursuing your passions. I just like I love that I got to really start interviewing in college. Like, you know, my second job in college, because I worked in the cafeteria my freshman year, and I'm like, never again, I got to find me a desk job. And I found a job in the Office of Career Services, and they really like, you know how you think about critical moments in your life? I think me working at Career Services for 3 years is so important to my journey and who I am today, because they were the ones who gave me a camera and said, hey, take pictures of all our events. They were the one who told me, hey, here's this flip camera, go out there and interview people and write on the blog. And those were like the first things I started doing. And as a sociology major, we have to write junior theses and junior papers and senior thesis projects. And I got to like create the idea for that. So my junior paper, I wrote about uniformed employees on campus, and, you know, what their uniforms or how their uniforms affected their social experiences. And so I got to interview like 15, 16 different employees and do everything in the whole, like, you know, transcribing and note taking, all that stuff. And I got an A+ on that paper, which I am very happy to say, because A+ do not happen at Princeton. And I got an A+ on my junior paper. And then and then for my senior thesis, I wrote about policing in Orange, because that was something that was very interesting to me. And just because I grew up in Orange my entire life, I felt like the police in Orange had a bad rap. So I kind of wanted to really get to understand, what is it really like to be a police officer. So I did a 110-page book. We had to, basically that was the end result was it turned into a book, which was my thesis. And I interviewed police officers, police chaplains, community residents about their experiences of policing in Orange. And that was something where I realized I love talking to people. I love like kind of putting together people's experiences and then drawing conclusions from that. So research and following your passions. I think that something else person taught me that it's not all about school, because I think the greatest things that came from Princeton was the network that I had made. And thinking about it now, because I was very involved in a lot of extracurriculars, I became very well connected on campus, and people always would say like, Raina, how do you know everybody? And I'm like, I don't know. I just, talk to people, say hi to them when when I see them, always try to find ways to be of value to people. And I think because I was just involved with a lot of different things on campus, it got me known in a lot of the circles, and the right circles. So from administration, I knew people who worked on campus, I knew people from the academic setting, I knew people, and just like being around campus and being involved in events and stuff, I would know like actual students. So that was something else. What's the third thing? And like, I feel bad because sometimes some of my peers hated Princeton. Like it was very hard for them. But I think because I came from an environment that was probably like just like Princeton socially, I knew how to navigate it. But I think you really have to have a strong sense of self in college. And that was something that I had really started to cultivate, is like, know who you are and know what your strengths are, but you really have to like really have a strong identity, because you could get sucked alive. You could get really either sucked alive in college, lose yourself. But that was probably like the biggest thing I learned, was just knowing who you are and knowing like what's unique to you. Like one of the things that I did in college, and sometimes I regret it because I wonder if I would have had a different experience, was I wasn't that social. Like I put my work first, but because I put my work first because I knew I couldn't get it done if I was trying to hang out with everybody else. But I was never like a person who was always working, because I worked smart. Like I didn't go to study halls with people to sit around and talk for 10 hours and then be scrambling the last minute. Like I did my work in my room and then went to the study halls and watched people sit around and talk. I'm like, listen, I'm done. I did my work ahead of time. I read up. Like I used to read, like, let's say like, I feel like I'm talking too much, but let's say like we had like reading for psychology. The teacher said read chapters 1 and 2. I was reading chapters 1 through 4.
So you were one of them. Like, oh
yeah.
my. Everybody that's probably listening is throwing side eyes like, yo, no, this is that person. You were that person that nobody did the homework. Raise your hand. Like, you didn't collect the homework, did you? You forgot to collect the homework? And everybody like, yo, what you, Raina? Raina you got that Raina? No. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I said I wasn't a geek though. I just was like always thinking ahead, thinking efficiently, because I would do my homework ahead of time, and then I would have like a lot of free time because I was always like batch. Like I guess I've just been a batch person for a long time. I even batch with my podcast, right? You do a whole bunch at one time, and then you interview, then you edit as time goes on. But your time, like I've always been somebody who's very like time driven. It kind of makes me anxious sometimes, but I just don't like. If I could do a little bit ahead of time, then I will. Or if I could figure out a process to make things easier, then I would do that.
I respect that. I respect that. And I had one question to kind of flesh out kind of where we're at, because right now I'm seeing a lot of phenomenal things, and I want people to catch it before we go to the podcast and interview and all that other stuff. So, can you tell me what was a difficult part of your journey? And then kind of how you overcame that.
Difficult part of the journey at what point?
Pre 2015.
Oh, okay. Difficult part of my journey pre-2015. I think it's figuring out what I wanted my journey to look like, right? Because, my parents are Caribbean, and that's something that I talk about a lot with my audience, is having these expectations from other people and trying to like make something of your life. Because when I graduated, like even in college, I had like the internship at CBS. Like I was doing stuff, but I wasn't really thinking like long term. Like, how some people have these long term goals. Like I was never really like a long term type of person, and making these like specific goals was something that I kind of shied away from. I was more of like a organized, spontaneous person, if that makes any sense, like calculated, spontaneous activities. And I just felt like I sometimes felt like I was doing stuff, but it wasn't really aligned to like a bigger purpose. And that's just been, I feel like the theme of my life is like, okay, you'll do it because you're good at it, but what is it that you're actually trying to build? What is it that you're trying to go? And that was just something I really had to think about. I was like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I could just live in this spontaneous, whatever happens, happens type of mode for the rest of my life. But it's not really what I want. I definitely wanted to like think about what is it that I'm trying to do and kind of like set some clear goals for myself because I really don't think I was that type of person. I was doing stuff, I was getting stuff done, but I didn't really have specific goals. And that can be very what's the word? Like stressful because you then feel like you're doing it for other people and not for yourself.
No, I got you. So with that though, so that were you just very anxious? 'Cause I'm trying to think like is that
It's like the challenge, like one of my biggest challenges, I really feel like sometimes I stress myself out over little stuff. And I think the whole idea of not knowing what I want to do with my life, quote unquote, stressed me out a lot. When it's even after college, even like kind of now, because, I still have my 9 to 5, I'm doing Dreams and Drive. And it's like, all right, so what's the goal? What's the goal? What are you actually trying to do? What do you want to see? Where do you see your life in like 5 to 10 years? I think for some reason, just the idea of thinking about that sometimes like stresses me out.
Nah, I get you, but at the end of the day, and this is for my viewers, for my listeners, I think there's so much power in that. Even though you have that uncertainty, that you're still creating and putting stuff out there. Because there's a lot of people that have this uncertainty, but they're allowing that uncertainty to block them from putting stuff out in the atmosphere. They're just still stuck at their job. They're still stuck with these ideas in their head. They're still going to sleep like, I could do this, or I should doing this, or they're scrolling Instagram and like, yo, I should be doing that. I should be there. I should be talking to that person. I should be doing this. And it's like, yo, you have to start now, even while you're processing, because I'm saying you can't. And I think my boy Rob said something deep. I just got off the phone before we got on this podcast, and he said you can't join the wave when you're on the shore. Like you people looking at the waves, but you need to get in the water first. Like you can't surf on the sand. You got to be in the wave to kind of find your flow, to kind of find the rhythm, to kind of stand up and then be on the riptide. So I definitely love what you're doing, because you're going to find it. You're going to start to see certain gaps and be like, okay, this is where I need to go. And even if you don't find it, I like what you said too. Life is not that one dimensional as as all our 25 somethings, whatever, they'll find out, and you already know life is not, okay, I got this job and it's done. No, it's just, and I don't even think about things as a career perspective. I just like any job I've had, it's just an experience. It's like, and some people are more like, I want to go corporate finance, I want to do CFO and all this other stuff, but I'm more self-aware and I know kind of have a long-term vision. So I just these things as skill sets. Like my job in corporate finance in Pennsylvania, I learned how to navigate being in the city by myself and for a whole year, and how I can like really grind and grow. That's what it taught me. I didn't learn anything about finance. It was more so like I was in Redline, Pennsylvania. Many of y'all have never heard of that. That was in York. No, it was in York, Pennsylvania. And it is like nothing out there. But that whole time that's when I started running. That's when I got into marathons. So that part of my life would never happen in that space. So it's experience. And then working at Duke, I worked at Duke for like 9 months in the clinical research space. I didn't get paid the most. However, I was working with doctors that did a lot of different type of research, and they were really highly affluent. So I've never been around that space. So that I learned something there from that. That's an experience. And now doing what I do now, teaching at Hillside, seeing what students go through, administrators and all this other stuff, that is an experience. And like you said, it all wraps around into what I do on an everyday basis as a speaker, as a podcast, or whatever. So I think it is having that reflection time to think about what you've already done and what you're doing, and then being intentional as far as what that manifests into. And for you, that manifests into podcasts, freelance, blogging. And I think as you continue to level up and continue to grow, it's just going to become a dominant force. Like because that's what happens. Consistency creates dominance.
Yep. And just figuring out the themes in my life. Like, I've always been attracted to talking to people and then telling those stories that I gain to other people, right? I think storytelling has been a big part of my life. Even from a young child, I was always figuring out stories that me and my friends could tell other people, whether it be through the things we performed, right? The house on the hills. Like, I was telling you guys the story of my dreams. I'm going to live on a house on the hills,
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes when we run from those themes in our life, we kind of have confusion.
Mm-hmm.
When we start listening to our life in that way, things kind of seem to work together and everything kind of seems to fall into place.
Love that. And so I want to throw this nugget out there for college students. And as we segue into the podcasting world, which is our sweet spots, some other stuff, my college students out there, and I didn't want to share this publicly because I was wanting to wait till next time I go to college and just vent on this, do a little Gary V on it. Like, yo, I mean, so many freshmen, sophomores, that college students are in journalism, they're still trying to just get on radio. And I'm like, yo, I get that. But now you have the podcasting platform, you have video, you have online stuff. You're in college, you have access to the cameras and all this other stuff. You have all these people on the yard that you can interview, do whatever. Like, why are you not creating your own content? Like, why are you waiting for a radio show? Don't you think you would be more exciting or enticing for a radio show if you already had a platform and a following? Like, a lot of people reach out to me because I'm an Aggie. And they're like, yo, Mr. Hill, I'm trying to get on X, Y, and Z. How can I do it? I said, do it right now. You're a sophomore. Like, start in that lane right now. And that's going to make you more attractive, more advisable. And it's going to give you more confidence in what you have to do. So, but yet they're still in the summers, they wasting their summers away at a food line or at a call center. And they're interested in getting PR and journalism, but I ain't seen no YouTube videos. I ain't seen no podcasts. I ain't seen no I haven't seen nothing on, they don't even have a website. And they say, you want to be in journalism. You want to work for CBS. You want to work for all this other companies. And we're slowly transitioning into a time where resumes are important, but people want to see the receipts now. Because I want to see the receipts. If you say, oh, you want to be on the podcast and I see no receipts, I don't see a website, I don't see nothing, and you've accomplished all this stuff, I'm like, what do you mean? Or if you're trying to say, hey, Mr. Hill, I want to help you with the Minority Trailblazer Conference, I want to do all this other stuff, but you don't have any tangible proof that you've ever done a conference. So for my people out there, not even my college students, my adults, whatever space you're in, just make sure that you're producing at some capacity now. I should not look online and say, if you want to be a dancer, and I don't see nothing about dancing online. I don't see nothing. You don't talk about nothing dancing. It's all in your feelings, in your bag. I look in your Snap. I ain't seen no shoes. I ain't seen no twirls. I ain't seen no dance lessons. I ain't seen nothing. So as I pivot, this podcasting space, dreams and drives. First, how did you get into it? And then second, what gave you the confidence to say, yo, I can do this myself?
Well, I got into how did I get into starting the podcast? Yeah. Well, it really starts in August 2015 when I was interviewing this guy in my so let me flip the question. So I got the confidence to do podcasts because I had started doing a lot of interviews. I was doing interviews in college. When I got out of college, I started freelance writing, and the business editor at Madame Noir kind of saw that I had this knack for interviewing entrepreneurs. I got a lot of assignments to interview entrepreneurs, and I realized I really liked it, right? And I was doing the interviews, I was transcribing them. I started my own blog, RanaCampbell.com, and I had a series called Brand Makers, where I was interviewing people about how they built their brands. And so I knew that, all right, I like interviewing. I'm pretty good at interviewing. I had the practice so that I felt confident. I think sometimes confidence can come with practice, just because by the time I started my podcast, I had already done maybe over 60, 70 interviews or whatever. So I knew that, all right, I had this deep desire to kind of build my brand to the next level. I kind of think that blogging was dying in a way because nobody was really reading these long form interviews that I was doing on my blog. So I said, okay, people are starting to do this thing called podcasts. And I remember reading this, I remember talking to this guy, Nate Holtz-Sappel, who I was interviewing for my series Brand Makers. And I was telling him about, how I wanted to start a podcast. And he was like, all right, so what's stopping you? And I was like, huh? He's like, what's stopping you? He told me there's a lot of people out here who you're smarter than, who are making a lot more money than you, or who are doing a lot more things. And I was like, wow, I hadn't thought about it like that. Right? Like, I had been my own limiting factor. And he was like, figure out how to do it. It doesn't have to be the prettiest, but just start doing it and get it done. So I told myself, all right, I'm going to start my podcast. I put a date on it. January 1st, 2016. Like, I didn't even know what day January 1st fell on. I'm like, all right, January 1st, I will put a podcast out. And that kind of started like the chain of events that led me into like it all working out. Like, I remember one of my friends introduced me to this guy who lived on my block, and turned out like he lived on my block my entire life, and I had never met him before. He was an audio engineer. Mm-hmm. We ended up linking up, and he made the intro for my podcast, and he was episode 1 guest, right? But if I hadn't put out into the world that I wanted to do this podcast, maybe I wouldn't have met him, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe he wouldn't have been the first guest. Maybe the whole inertia wouldn't have started from that. So, I remember just like reading up about podcasting, taking John Lee Dumas's course. Because remember, research has really been important to me, and trying to figure out how to get it done. I saw people that I admire starting podcasts, like Sakita Holly of Hashtags and Stilettos. I started listening to a lot of podcasts, taking notes on what I like, what I didn't like, what I wanted Dreams and Drives to be like. I just really kind of dove into it once I put a date on it, because I was tired of always wanting to do something and not really fully committing. Because with my blog, I kind of halfway committed. With the writing, I could have probably done more freelance writing, but I just wasn't really committed. So I told myself, like, if you commit to this, Rana, it could be something very big, but you have to be consistent with it. You can't just do it when you want to do it. You have to be on a schedule and stick to that schedule, because everyone out here is building platforms because they're consistent with it, and you can't expect to see results if you're not 100% in. And so I just really wanted to see results. I was tired of like not feeling like I was getting anything out of my blog, not really seeing the results that I wanted. So I think Dreams and Drive kind of started as a social experiment to myself, as a test to, what could I really accomplish if I committed to myself.
I love it. And 3 things I got out of that is, a lot of people struggle with this pretty versus producing. A lot of people want their stuff to look good. They want their website to be the best. They want to do all this stuff when they need to be producing. Straight like that. They're hung up on what it looks like. And unfortunately, unless you have a lot of capital to invest in certain things, it's not always going to start off how you want it. The quality might not always be the best. But if you're just getting in the game, in order to know what you need to do to adjust, you need to produce. That's how I learned how to become a better podcaster, by producing podcasts. Somebody today said, yo, I'm thinking about work, and I say this with respect to them, because I understand what they're going through, and they're trying to work through it, and we're going to work. I'm gonna help her out. But she was struggling with her blog, and she said, okay, I'm gonna work through it in a month and a half. I'm spend the next month and a half on strategy and all this other stuff. I said, how are you going to know strategy if you haven't? How can you create your own strategy if you haven't succeeded in this lane? Like, right. What do you mean? Like, you create strategy by doing it and seeing what works and what doesn't work. Like any marketing people out there, you learn what copy works, or how to create good copy by putting out bad copy and seeing what resonates, what doesn't resonate, what you need to tweak here, what you need to tweak there. I can't forecast or think about how I'm going to be a better marketer if I'm not already producing, or I haven't become those skills. So it's like we spend a lot of time trying to be pretty, because I think it's cool it gives us an excuse. It could be like, oh, so why didn't you do that? Oh, my website ain't right. Yeah, I'm just waiting on people to get back to me and my web design team. We're going to get it out there. I've heard, the game. It's like, oh, I'm just waiting for this. Like you said, I was waiting for my media kit. Like, I got it. Like, I'm just waiting for my subscribers to go up. Shut up. Let's go get it right now. Like, you gotta try right now. And then I think you said something critical, and it's clear. And I read a book. I forgot his dude's name. I want to give him a shout out, but I forgot his name. But he had a system on goals, and the biggest system was, he's like, put a date on it and release the date publicly. Like,
that's what I did. I said, hey guys, I'm starting a podcast. I didn't even have a name, right? I'm like, I'm starting a podcast. And like, I'm the type of person where like, if I put it out there and people start liking, or, liking the comments and, doing all this stuff, I'm like, damn, I can't take that back now. I kind of got to like actually do it.
Yeah, that's why people, they had their dreams in their closet. And I get it. Cause you don't want to be held accountable to it. So you say you want to write a book, but if you put it out there, hey guys, or even better, and this is what I did, and I'm gonna be real with y'all. This is the first time I never told this people, but I put out pre-sales for my book before I wrote the book. I made a couple $1,000s before the book was finished, because I said I am going to finish it, and I know I couldn't have 100 people looking for me. I can't be like, nah, I can dodge a couple people looking for a couple 20s, but I can't dodge 100 people like, you stole my money. So I told them it was gonna be out in a couple months, and we did it. I was that is the mindset that it pushed me. I had no choice but to do it. So when you have that, when you put yourself in that box, then life gets exciting, because you had that adrenaline. Now you got a time limit. Now I was like, I gotta go get it. But this conference, I said March 2018. We put it out there. I already had the website, even though the website is not where I wanted to be. Mind you, if you go to minoritytrailblazer.com, the website is not where I wanted it to be. We're releasing new content. We're almost done with all the details, but I knew that's pivotal for the brand. So I said, let's put it out there in the atmosphere. We already got a couple hundred people subscribed to updates on the conference, because I said, I'm going to do it. But if I would have said, okay, let me just wait till I get the website just right. Let me wait till I contact all these speakers. Let me think about sponsorship. I don't know nothing about sponsorship, but I put that energy out in the atmosphere. Guess what? Within 2 days, I had people emailing me resumes with experience, say, I want to work on what you're building. And we done already had a couple team meetings. We're already in the pocket. But you suffocating because you're not putting your things out there. And the last thing, I want to say it because I think you hit it on the head. Commit to it or don't do it. It's just that simple. It's like if you still waiting on starting a blog and it's month go by, 2 months ago, just don't do it. Just save people the energy. Like save my Facebook status from your post. Save my I don't want to like something just because you announcing it and I think it's gonna happen. Like no, save it. Don't put that in the atmosphere, because there's people that need your content, they're gonna suffer. So I don't even want to like no. But if you commit it, go all in. Like you said, once you start to go all in, stuff started to happen. So I'm excited about that. What does your preparation look like, and how do you select your guests?
Okay, so preparation for me, so let me start with selecting the guests. So look at me thinking about, see, it's so hard being on the other side, right? Like, you ask me a question, I'm flipping it.
I love that, because everybody knows I'm the guy to ask 10 questions in one question.
Yeah. So, I select my guests. So it really depends. Like, I started with just like my personal network. Well, first of all, you have to know who your audience is, right? So I know who my audience is: creative, lifestyle entrepreneurs, multicultural, mostly Black women, but we have Black men. We have people of all races, but those are like the core listeners of Dreams and Drive. People who like are into fashion, beauty, fitness, health, wellness, anything kind of lifestyle or creative. People who are either entrepreneurs, people who want to be entrepreneurs, who are stuck in some part of their journeys, and knowing, all right, so who can I bring on the show that can speak to something that is a pain point to this customer or to this listener, or who can inspire this listener in some way. So I started combing my personal network, because as I said, in college, I started building a really strong personal network, and through like even my career. Then I have people who I just have like these. I'm always on the hunt for stories. Like if you saw my phone, the photos album, I have so many screenshots of potential guests. If I see somebody who I think has a good story, I'm going to screenshot your info and try to figure out how I could get you on the show. So thinking about like who I want to be on the show, and then what kind of story could they tell the audience, really is the way that I think about selecting guests. Now, it's hard when people pitch me, because it's like, damn, like I like you, but I don't know necessarily if you'll be a good fit. Sometimes I just randomly say yes, because you never know what could happen from random things, right? That's that spontaneous part of my personality. And I just always try to make sure the person has a story and that the person can at least teach something. Like you have to have a good understanding of your story, which I think sucks sometimes when people don't know their story. Because you could be a good guest, but if you can't pitch me, if I don't already know you, I can't know your story. And like you say, hey, I want to be a guest in your show. In my head, I'm like, why? There's so many, I only have so many spots. I only have, let's say, weekly podcasts. Like I can't do everybody. So you have to do a really good job of knowing your story and how you'll connect with the audience. But that's really how I select the guests. And then I have just people that I just really want on the show that I personally am interested in. And like the other day I reached out to Khalees, Nas's ex-wife.
Oh yeah.
My milkshake brings other boys to the yard because
what?
Yeah.
Oops, I'm still in that yard.
because she transitioned into being a chef, and I just thought that was a really interesting story. I mean, her people said no, but that was just like, that's my mindset, right? Like, I'm gonna reach out even if I think
I'm shooting shots.
No.
I'm shooting shots.
You may say yes. Every no is an opportunity to say yes. I forgot the other part of your question.
It's the prep, but stay right there. Okay. Question: the people that's listening to the podcast that are doing something and they might want to be on a podcast, so we can give some quick steps on how to, like, the best way to pitch to be on a podcast. Real quick.
All right, so best way to pitch. So I'll just use me as an example, right? You pitch me. First of all, make sure you spell my name right because I'm real picky with details, right? Mm-hmm. No, you have to know who you want to. Who's the show? Like, don't say you want to be on Dreams and Drive because I don't know what podcast that is. It's not mine. Anyway, so know who you're addressing, right? For me, it's the host of the show. It really helps if you start with, that. Try to build some kind of like familiarity, like, I've listened to some episodes, or just show me that this just isn't some copy and paste that you've done from every episode, right? To everybody you're reaching out to. Know your story in one or two lines. Like, who are you? What do you do? Why are you important? And then one thing for me that's really good is like doing a brief outline of your story, knowing that a lot of my shows really hinder or center around some type of moment or some type of epiphany, right? That led to you putting your dreams into drive. Maybe say that. And then what I think would be really good in the pitch is to have core talking points. So if let's say you want to be on a podcast on negotiation, right? Say 5 things that you could speak to negotiation and give me an episode title. Like, if you give me an episode title, I'm like, yo, listen, I don't have to think about the show title.
Ding. Oh, whoa. You gotta stop right there. If you do that, I don't care. If you do that on my podcast, you already on. You good.
Yeah. Like, I love when people do that because it's just, I hate writing show titles. So if you give me the show title, then, and you tell me what you're gonna talk about, things we can speak to. And then, that's really like the biggest thing. You really have to know how to bring value, how you're going to bring value to the person's podcast that you're pitching. And I think you also want to stroke people's ego just a little bit, because if I don't know you, you have to give me reason to take you seriously. Like, this one girl sent me a video pitch and I was so impressed. She said my name right. She talked about different episodes that she listened to, what she could talk about. It wasn't the best fit right now for the podcast themes that I'm working on, but she's definitely somebody that I'll probably bring on later on, So you really have to figure out how to stand out and how to be valuable at the same time, be relevant.
I think first of all, side note, I don't think people will ever understand how much work goes into creating a title. Like, I sit there,
I hate it,
an hour beforehand, and a lot of times I regret half of my titles. Not regret, but I'm like, but half of them I'm like, yo, that's a heat rock. Because I'm like, yo, because some days I'm real Drakus and I got hidden meaning, and then some days I'm like, yo, I need to read real like Migos and really say what it is. So I've always kind of alternate, and the world would never know. Like, an hour, I sit there an hour on SoundCloud, like, does this sound right? Is this 100 characters? Do I have to put do I put Rana Campbell, the host of Dreams and Drives? Because if I put that, that's going to be 20 characters right there. So now I got to shorten the concept and the story. Like, it's just so complex, and it matters because it does matter for the most part. Because unless you're a celebrity and you're on the top of the top, when you on the come up, you got to be spot on with your titles so people can be interested. So that is critical. And I think, but what you said about as far as your value add, that speaks even more so even outside of podcasting, just in general, talking to people, communicating, network, leveraging. I think people always go, and I don't know if it's a human nature, but they always go into what they can get from you. But when you lead, like, okay, this is my strength. This is what value I add. then more people want to be around you. More people would like maybe sponsor what you're doing. More people want to help you out in your career. But when you're constantly like asking for something or trying to get a favor, or when you're trying to get a favor, not saying like even, I think it's being very intentional with that. And that's why I'm glad you pointed that out.
Mm-hmm. Add value and know what your value is.
And question. I see you've been featured on Huffington Post. You've been featured on all these things. For all my business owners out there, and I always ask my people these questions. How do you go about getting exposure? Like what if you had a couple key things that you do in your wheelhouse as far as getting exposure, what would it be?
You know, it's funny. I was just working on updating my press links on my website on Dreams and Drive, and I didn't realize I had all these like press hits that I just didn't know about. So I think the biggest thing you have to do is you have to create a way to track things, right? So I set up Google Alerts just for the exposure that you can't control, because people will write about you, but they won't always tell you. So number one, set up Google Alerts, google.com/alerts. Type in the keywords that you want to track, and you'll get notified if someone writes about you or if those keywords show up and things, right? For the exposure that you can control, so the ones that you actively pitch, is you really have to, like what I did was, I do a host of things. So strategic things. So I do, I still freelance, right? For like, which is a huge site for Black women. And I think about how can I strategically leverage that traffic from the things that I'm writing about back to the podcast. So one of the things that I'll do is, I remember one time I pitched the editor, hey, can I do a transcribed version of one of my podcast interviews and have it on the site and then link back to the full interview at the end of the interview? And she was like, yeah, sure. Because for her, it's a win, right? She has new content. And for me, it's a win because now people, if they want to listen to the full interview, they can go back to my podcast. So thinking about ways that you can leverage guest blogging is something that I think is really good for getting exposure. Just writing in general online, getting some bylines, like maybe if you're an expert, let's say you're an expert in like relationships and romance, right? Writing or pitching articles to people to other outlets that write about that could be a good way for you to get exposure, but always making sure that you're allowed to put your bio in on the last 2 lines of the story, right? Always making sure that there's an author page so that you're not doing it in vain. Like there has to be some kind of strategic purpose to what you're doing. Another good thing that I think helps get exposure is just building relationships with people who can give you exposure. Mm-hmm. I think Twitter is a good way to connect with people. I've gotten a lot of things just from being nice to people on Twitter. Like you never know who somebody is. Like I remember one time this girl asked me, hey, can I talk to you? I really love your podcast. And we talked, we had a conversation. She told me that she wanted to put me on her blog. And, I could have said, hey, is this blog big? Is this blog whatever? But I didn't ask that. I said, okay, we had the conversation. And it turned out she was also a freelance writer for Essence magazine.
Wow.
Right? And what if I had told her no? What if I had just ignored the Twitter message or whatever it was? Like that wouldn't have happened. So you really have to be, number one, strategic, but also be a little spontaneous with people that you talk to, because you never know where somebody will end up. Something else that helped me get exposure is putting stuff out there. Like as you said earlier, people want to keep their dreams to themselves. People want to keep their accomplishments to themselves. No, like you have to actually like celebrate things. People want to celebrate with you, right? People want to know like, how did she grow her podcast from like 0 downloads to 200,000 downloads? People want to know that, and people want to talk to the people who are doing that. So although you may think of it as like boasting and bragging, no, it's strategic marketing. It's appealing to people's inner desire to want to be better, right? Mm-hmm. They want to align themselves with people who are doing good things. So people won't know what you're doing if you don't actually put it out there yourself. So that's something I would say those are like my biggest takeaways, is building the relationships, being strategic about like providing like guest blogs and leveraging guest blogging, and just like actually putting it out there what you're doing so people can know, people can actually want to link with you.
Man, I love that. And I honestly, one thing I don't do, actually, I don't know. People be like, yo, you're wild. You do that. But, hold up. Let me see. What was the big takeaway I got out of that? You had a lot of great points, but I want to play devil's advocate. Not devil's advocate to your point, but to some people that are looking for PR, y'all need to stop looking for PR and really just work on what you're doing.
Yes.
So like, cause I a lot of people, and I'm not, one of my,
something for people to actually want to write about. Like, what you're doing is trash. You don't want trash or bad stuff, right? You want to make sure that you're actually doing something that's good, or that you actually have something for people to write about.
Because it's gonna, like, at the end of the day, I love this. First of all, strategy. You need strategy, but also too, have the confidence. If you're really doing something at a high level, it's gonna come to you. Like, sooner or later, it's going to come to you. The PR is going to come to you. But when you spend more time searching for PR than creating stuff that needs PR, then it's like, okay, like, you need PR for what? Like, you don't even have a website. Why are you looking for PR? Like, what you mean? Like, you just started you just started your business. I get it. You want the PR. I love it. But you go to your website, your links don't work, or you don't have no product. You don't, like, what are we doing here? You don't have a Facebook page. Like, you're not leveraging the platform. I go to your platforms and you don't have any content up there. So don't get too far ahead of where you need to be, because you want to make sure that when you do get the opportunities, that you can leverage it. Case in point, people that get a chance to go on Steve Harvey shows, these shows, and they get airtime, they get all this other stuff, but then you go to their website is not done, or the website is half-assed, or they don't have no products to sell. They don't even have a live Facebook channel. It's like, what, like, why even get that PR? Why even get put on a national stage if you can't leverage it? Because once your 15 minutes are up, then where people go, or people are like, oh, Rana, she was very interested on this, on Greg's podcast. Let me go to the website, check more info. And then you just got some dead links. You don't got no products. You just, you ain't updated your YouTube in 10 years. It's like, if you ain't gonna update it, just delete it. It hurts. So, that's my spin on things. And, it's like, we probably can go on for days about that. I did want to ask, what would be some tips that you give to, if you can probably label it three tips you would give to aspiring podcasters, people that are trying to get in this lane, in this industry?
I think number one is know your audience. I think a lot of people know your audience and niche your audience down. I've talked to people who said, hey, I want to start a podcast for Black women. I'm like,
there's a billion of them.
I'm like, you do know that number one, podcast is probably one of the highest growing, digital trends or whatever. Everyone's starting podcasts nowadays. You need to know how you're going to stand out, because everyone's starting a podcast and everybody wants to speak to Black women. But I was actually speaking to Blavity CEO Morgan DeBon, and she was talking about how you really have to niche it down, and there's power in the niche. So figure out the specific type of woman that you want to talk to and what her specific pain points are. And then don't think about what you want to talk to her about. Think about what she wants to be talked to about. And there's a big difference in that. Because even with Dreams and Drive, like, I was saying, okay, this is what I want to talk about. But when I did my listener survey, I realized that people had a whole set of problems that I hadn't even really considered, right?
How you do your listener survey?
How did I do it?
Mm-hmm.
I just used a Google Docs form. And what I did was I had my email list. I sent it out to my email list. I had an incentive with it. So I said, hey, if you fill it out, I'm going to be doing a giveaway for a gift card to 5 people. So that was an incentive for people. And I advertised it on my podcast each week. I said, hey, go to dreamsanddrive.com/survey if you want to take my survey. And I got over maybe 50 responses or so, which was good because I got a lot of information. So that's how I did it. I asked key questions that I wanted to know, so that I could kind of build out the right content for the audience.
I love that. I got to do a listener survey as well, because you'd be surprised about, because the audience will tell you, especially for those people out there trying to monetize, the audience would tell you what they would be willing to pay for. The audience would tell you what kind of guests they would like. However, I will say I kind of take the Steve Jobs approach for some things. Is like, I don't let the audience say me too much, because at the end of the day, if the people wanted what they wanted, we wouldn't have an iPhone. Like, people so it's like,
that's true. But let it guide you, right? Let it guide. I think there's certain themes you have to know, and just I'll go back to research. You have to know how to pick out the bigger themes from the data. So a lot of things, people will tell you one thing, but they don't know what they're really saying is this thing, right? So finding themes from it, but at the same time knowing what your ultimate vision is for whatever it is you're building.
Yeah, you hit it on the head, because I love that. Also, I want to circle back before we transition to another topic. I want to circle back to something you said earlier in the podcast, which was critical. As far as you took a course by John Lee Dumas, I did too. That was phenomenal. John Lee Dumas is I don't like his voice. And I'll say that on the record, but he is phenomenal. I love what he does, and I love how but he's step by step, he has paved the way of how to get the news and worthy, how to get downloads. I mean, it's just phenomenal. I thank him. I will forever be grateful for him, forever grateful for Michael Hyatt for his blogging courses that I've took online. That's helped me be far ahead of the game before I was even really should have been. But for everybody out there, always look for the benchmarks. I've said it on many podcasts. Always look for archetypes of people that are doing yourself on a high level and honestly, some people that don't look like you. Because that's what helped me the most. Like, black people don't give me step by step. Black people give me work hard. Black people give me no replies. White people, they're like, yo, and not to blanket all white people, so my listeners, but I've seen it's like, yo, they giving me courses. They give me step by step by step by step by step. So that's kind of why I do what I do. And I'm in the process of sharing more on my YouTube and everything else of how I actually do it, how I create speeches, how I can go for an hour, how I can do this whole thing, because a lot of times we give half behind advice. It's like, we just say work hard. You know, if you just work hard on podcasts, and that does not mean you're going to get reach. That does not mean people are going to find your podcast. I know people out here with hundreds of episodes with no traction. They got 10 reviews, and it's just like, it's cool for them if it's a hobby, but it's like, yo, there's so much more. So when you follow the blueprints out there, they're already out there. Whatever you're doing, your idea is not that brand new. Follow somebody that's out there and just innovate on that. You'll be so much far faster. And my last question in the podcasting space, what is your thoughts on how the industry is changing and where it's going? It's a podcaster to podcaster. What's your thoughts on that?
I kind of, I feel like everyone's starting a podcast now. For me, I think it's going to be hard when people who have no brands, who with really good ideas want to start podcasts, because you have bigger brands like the companies now starting branded podcasts that are going to get the listeners because they have the money to attract the listeners. They have the names. They can get the big guests, right? They can get the big ta-da that goes with podcasting sometimes that a lot of people who are just starting out can't do. So I feel like it's going to get really hard now as people are getting put onto podcasting. So it's either you're going to have to be really okay with having a niche audience and not comparing yourself, because that's something that happens with me. Is like you can compare yourself to people who just have a different advantage from you, right? So I feel like for where podcasting is going, I hope it doesn't become so saturated that the good voices get lost, because with podcasting, it's a significant investment of your time, and you cannot browse podcasts as you would browse like your favorite gossip sites. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, it's an active listening.
It's like a marriage. You kind of in it for the long haul.
Yeah, like you can't listen to you can commit to a few that you listen to a lot of the times, but a lot of people either have their core that they listen to, and then they might listen to others sporadically. So it's going to be hard. I feel like we're going to have to really figure out how to show subscribers. I feel like Apple Podcasts now has so much data that we don't know that would be so good to know. How many people are subscribed to me on Apple Podcasts? They don't tell us, right?
But all the data is. That's why I don't like really publicizing downloads like that, because I see it on SoundCloud. I know where I'm at. I like where I'm at, but I don't believe anything. That's why I believe more so. That's why I love people affirm and send messages like, I listened to this episode, whatever. I love LinkedIn. Shout out to everybody, LinkedIn family.
You don't believe the data?
I believe it, but I believe it, but it's, I feel like something's missing. Like, I don't know. Apple really could do a better job on the data.
Yeah, I feel like they have something in the cut that they're working on, because they rebranded it from iTunes Podcast to Apple Podcasts. I don't know. I have to email my people and be like, hey, what's going on at Apple?
Plus, it's very subjective, because I don't get some of the rankings. I'm like, what doesn't make sense? They just came out. I know they're not. It's
not new and noteworthy, whatever that section is. I think that's a big thing. I want people don't believe the hype. Really, Apple Podcasts, because I've worked, I got featured in Apple Podcasts a few times, it's really an editor picking who they want to be on it, right? That's why relationships are so important. Sometimes rankings work, but a lot of the categories are just who the editors know of, right? Like if you know Barry from Podcast and Color, she was pivotal in helping iTunes put up the Black Voices in Business section, right? They didn't really shout her out. They didn't give her any real hype for that, but it really was just recommendations. It's like a chance thing. And that's the thing with podcasting. You can get discovered by chance. You can go viral by chance. It's really hard to really know like what's the step to growth. You have to like experiment so much, or you just have to have a loyal audience that will really share your work for you, but you have to put out good work. Right.
Yeah, you got to put out good work. And I think you do a good job, and definitely shout out Side Hustle Pro. They do a good job. And a lot of other podcasts of like containing their community. Luckily y'all been loyal to the Minority Trailblazer podcast, but I haven't done a good job of I don't have a Facebook group. I have a website, but I haven't been, I'm being a lot more intentional as we move forward to the conference and everything else. So I'm just glad that y'all always send me stuff, but containing your community, that lets you know you're engaged, because if not, you can always feel like, is anybody out there listening? Like, what is going on? I can only imagine now the new podcasters feel as like, golly, where's Crickets? Like, where's everybody at? Like, how do I get people? But I would say on the change in industry, I do think you're right. I think two things are pivotal. It's going to be more so you have to have talent to actually do it now, because but these big boy companies coming, if you are an average podcast with average, like really conversational skills and whatnot, then it's going to be very hard to create that. Like, there's going to be no difference. They're going to be like, yo, I might as well listen to X, Y, and Z. So honestly, and I'll let y'all get into my head. That's why I'm strategic about not having too many big time people on my show. I like stories. I think stories would never grow old. And I want to fight the fight where I know I can win. I can't win as far as being able to make a call and get Ice Cube when he's doing it around. I can't call Kevin Hart, but like, yo, Kevin Hart, I know you got a video coming out. Hey, yo, come through the podcast. But what I can do is people with phenomenal stories in their niche are doing well. I can make those calls and we can all grow together right here. And we can just vibe out. We continue getting those 5 or 10 more subscribers, 5, 10 more, 5, 10 more, 5, 10 more until you right there. So I just challenge people too, if you're starting off the game, don't get caught up in the big names. Don't get caught up in the big names. And the real test of your fate, put your chips on you and say, okay, how can I make this person with an okay story, that low energy, how can I make them sound exciting? Like, how can I dig deeper into my questions, dig deeper into the interview to make them excited, to make my viewer be like, okay, this is worth listening. How can I bring it out of them? That's why I think you're successful, and a lot of people other are going to continue to be successful regardless of who comes into this space, because y'all have a knack for whoever comes on the show. I don't care, because everybody don't come on the show with ready, set to go like viral or ready, set to provide a good interview. Some people come with low energy.
And people you got to know how to put people's how to bring that out of people. And what I realized let me just say this real quick. And some people, I realize that bigger names don't always mean you'll get more downloads, because I've had bigger names on the show, but they may not have shared it, right? Yeah. People may have already heard their story so many times. Like, I already know that person's story. I'm not going to listen to that episode, but I think getting people, okay, I'll give you a concrete example. Episode 86 was with a friend of mine, Sarah Vega. You know, I thought we were going to talk about being a Latina blogger, you know, her rise and fall in media, whatever. And what I realized is, number one, you have to get people comfortable, right? I think sometimes it's good to bring people that you already know in some sense. You may not know them like 100%, but people who are comfortable with at least talking to you, who have a sense of what they're supposed to talk about, you know, of the show. So I brought her on the show, and you have to kind of like, it's really hard. Like, I realize that it's something that not everybody really knows how to have a good conversation, but you can't think about sometimes where you want the conversation to go. Sometimes you have to like let the conversation lead you to where it's going. So asking people why, right? Don't just ask, what did you do? Ask them, why did you do that? How did you do that? What were the things you were thinking? Like, you have to really, like, it's like an art. Like, Greg, I don't know how to say it. I feel like I'm rambling here.
No, we right where we need to be.
It's really like, you have to connect to people's emotions. That's why I definitely felt like if I can sense that someone is feeling something and they're hesitating a little bit, like, you have to kind of like take off the podcaster hat and just be a friend, like be a virtual buddy, like be like
your Oprah.
Yes, you really have to like stop trying to be like so stringent and just really focus on being a human. Like, that that conversation, like, we both were crying because she just talks about, like, I did not know that she was actually a corrections officer for 4 years while she was blogging, and how she got fired from being a corrections officer because of, like, this whole big drama, and then how she attempted suicide twice and it failed, and just this big epiphany moment that happened. But I don't think we would have gotten to that part of the conversation because she didn't have to tell me all that stuff. But it was just because I sensed that there was something, like, you have to really have your sensing hat on when you're talking to people. Don't just have your pen and paper in your hand and checking off questions, because anyone can do that. But you really, I think it's a bigger investment than just talking to somebody. It's really focusing on your people skills. And I think that good podcasters are also very self-aware and also understanding of the human experience and the human emotion. Like, I'm a big English person. I read this book. I wish I could get it right now. But the mythic structures, right? Like, the human experience, we all have like 7 things that we all connect with: love, anger, like whatever those things are, right? Those are the things that at the end of the day, no matter what, if you can get people talking about those type of things, it's going to unearth some part of them that then just gets them talking. And I feel like you have to get people comfortable and get them to that point of their own, like,
You got to get them, you got to get into the pocket. You got to get, I love that. That's why, and I think I'm getting better at it, but that's why my podcasts are long, because I mean, sometimes it takes time to really get to where the real jewels come. Some people naturally, I mean, especially when you're not like, if you're Oprah, everybody comes to Oprah, they ready to share their soul and their secret. But like podcasts, unless, depending on if you're self-aware, if you know you got somebody coming on a podcast and they want to be on the show, then they're more easier to do it. But if you know somebody that you've had pleaded to get on, you got to warm them up. You got to get that the shell right to then get to where you want to go. Because if not, they're going to give you, like you said, what everybody else give you. And it's like, you gotta find what makes them comfortable. And I think you hit it on the head. The podcast is about them. It's not about you.
And I think also too is that's where doing your research, that's where being a student of other industries is important, right? Like, I think people who are good at marketing, who are good at sales and understand, like, always thinking about what is the story here? What can I extract from this is so important. Like, I read a lot of self-development. I'll read like mythic, like, why am I reading about mythic structures to stories? Because those are things that have lived over time, right? Like, The Alchemist is not just a good book because, you know, it people read it a lot. It's because it really speaks to the core emotions that we may not even know that we're processing inside. So you really have to be a student of other industries, be a student of just being a human. And I think that's where really good conversations come from.
Yep. There you go. For all the new podcasters, definitely are people this, and honestly, that goes into our interview stuff. We don't have to go there because I think we've hit it on the head. People, because I've gotten a lot of calls and a lot of texts and a lot of video chats on people preparing for interviews and how to navigate it and whatnot. And I think the biggest thing I always said is it's just a human conversation. Like, I know certain industries are a little different, but for the most part, they're humans. This is a job that you want. You're interviewing them as well. And everybody gets so nervous and clam up. It's like, yo, how do you talk with your friends? How do you get to know somebody that you don't know? Like, what tact do you use on that? And then I start breaking it down. But I think, why do you think people struggle so much when they get into these interview settings? And could you share some quick advice, some quick nuggets on people that are interviewing for jobs, interviewing for internships, or interviewing guests? Like, because people hit me all the time and they ask me questions, but I want your perspective because you've had some experience in the career prep field and whatnot. So could you share some quick nuggets for people?
I think one of the biggest things that people clam up with in interviews is not being like, I'm going to go back to the self-awareness and being confident in yourself and knowing your story. I think that, like, let's say in job interviews, if you go into a job interview and you don't know what your core key strengths are, then it's going to be really hard for you to speak to that. And that's what the interviewers want to know. They want to know how your key things, the things you're good at, will help this company. So you have to take the time to really learn yourself. Like I'm very big on people taking like personality tests or just like something, like take a self-assessment. Say, hey, what are 5 things that I really love? What are 5 things that I'm really not that good at, right? And study yourself. Take time to really learn yourself better. And I think self-care is important too. Like if you're so stressed out all the time that you can't just relax, or you just have all these things going on, then that's going to come out in those interview settings. Like you really have to know how to tell your story. And if you're not good at it, I think you can't just put it off. Like you have to like invest some time into asking yourself, like, who am I? What do I want to do? What are the key things that I really like about myself? And I think confidence, it's really easy for me to say, you know, you have to practice confidence because it's something that it doesn't come easily to everybody. But I think what can come easily to people is knowing that you're good at something and accepting that that's one thing that you're good at. I feel like everyone should kind of know, like, what's just something that you love? What's a passion of yours? What's that feeling that, like, if you talk about this one thing, you're just in a happy space. And then when you're in that space, you know, you can then do the work. But you have to find out what's the best space that I can be in that will allow me to do the work. And it might be that you have to like change your circle. Because if the circle you're in is always like this negative energy and they're just spewing negative energy onto you, it's going to be really hard for you to be self-aware, right? It's like, it's a lot of things that go into it. But I really think that it goes back into really knowing yourself and being one and okay with your journey and your story.
Love it. Love it. That is a ball on the table. Knowing your points on what value you can add to the company. I crazy me. People like, all right, so you're preparing. Okay, what can you add? Well, what do you mean? You need to know off the cuff exactly what you can add, just like on the podcast, what you can add, and then knowing your strengths, and also too knowing having your core story, how you use that strength. Always have your core pocket stories on. Okay, if you I'm very organized, and then boom, you hit them right with the okay. I remember the time this is a group project. Remember now it's all playing. That's why emotions are important. People can always relate to emotions. I remember this group project, and they were late, and I was like, man, I was sweating because I didn't know what to do. And then all of a sudden, I did X, Y, and Z. And the interviewer, they have no choice but to be engaged. You're telling a story, you're engaged, you hit the senses of, okay, here's what it was. It was late at night. Boom. Now they're thinking of late at night. And it's like, it's kind of like acting in a sense where it all comes together and you just, but it has to be intentional. And I love how you put it out there. All right. We're getting close to the end. I did want to ask before I go into the rapid fire question, 2 pivotal things. Can you tell me about a time where you struggled in confidence and then give our viewers at least 1 or 2 nuggets? I think we've touched on it before, but right to our people that have instances where they're not confident in their abilities, confidence in what they're doing is worthy enough to be shared, confidence on their pricing. I was like, should I charge this much, or am I worth this much? Like, but people that lapse in confidence, you share a moment or a time in your life where you were maybe lack confidence and strategies that you use now to make sure every day you affirm yourself and you're confident in who you are.
I'm trying to think of an example, and the first example that came to me was, it doesn't really have to do with business, but I think it's a good. Yeah. So like, as you know, I love dancing, and like when I first got out of college, there was this dance class in New York that I was part of called Brookwine, and basically it's like a heels dancing class where they do like dance hall reggae music, and they have this thing called Brookwine Girls where you could like be one of the instructors in the class and just tour with the actual instructors and, you know, be their actual like, you know, brand ambassadors or whatever. So I remember like they had Brookwine Girl auditions, and I really wanted to be a Brookwine girl. Like, I was like, okay, I danced in college. I got what it takes. I'm going to wear this cute outfit. Like, I'm going to go to these auditions and blow their minds, right? And I'm like, okay, dancer, but I'm not like, I was never professionally trained or whatever. Like, I can learn choreography, but I went to the audition and people were doing splits. People were like, I'm like, what? Like, you know, I started doubting, like, why am I even here? Like, why did I even think I could be a Brookline girl? Like, why did I even, like, it really got to me, Greg. And I was just in the audition room looking around at everybody. They had the judges in the front, not like they were very straight faced. They weren't showing emotion. And I wanted to cry and just run out of the room. And it reflected in like my audition. I mean, I auditioned twice. The first time I got like callbacks because I was really like practicing a lot, whatever. I got callbacks like hour after like the first round, whatever. But then I didn't make it to the next round. And I was kind of like really down on myself because number one, I think I had this false sense of security. I thought that, I had this in the bag. Like I didn't really like practice before even going to the auditions. I said, I'm gonna just go here and blow them away. Like, I'm the best dancer here. But there are people there who have been dancing their entire lives, right? And I just felt like a failure, and I just didn't feel like I had what it takes. But one of the things, I didn't make it. Both times I auditioned, I never made it. But I think one of the things that I had to do was I had to kind of step back, right? And I had to kind of look at myself and be like, all right, but what did you do? What did you win during this experience? And for me, it was like, hey, I actually auditioned in front of people who auditioned for Beyonce, people who are like actually legit dancers. And I wasn't that bad. I wasn't like, I had to like, I guess what I'm trying to say is I had to kind of see the what's the word? The silver lining within everything. Mm-hmm. And seeing how that failure then helped put into perspective a lot of things for me. Like if you going to something where you don't feel confident, I think practice is something that is very important. I had always been kind of this like cocky person, like even with me saying, hey, I don't have to study for the SATs, right? And just banking on my experience to get me in the door was something that I realized is not true. Like you cannot just bank on these things that have helped you prior. And I think that's where it goes to being self-aware is I kind of had like this false cockiness to mm-hmm. life in a way, because I had always been kind of good at things. I've always been good at school. I've always been good at like reading and writing. And so when I didn't expect to fail, and that was kind of like a eye-awakening moment for me, just because it made me realize that you're not always going to win in life, and you have to know how to prepare yourself. I mean, I know I had the quote, jump until your wings are on the way down, but sometimes you may fall. Mm-hmm. But what are you going to do when you fall? And that was a moment in my life where I had to start seeing things as, all right, if it does fail, you won't stay down forever, and you can pick yourself up and you can be on to new things, right? Mm-hmm. And that was probably like the biggest thing that I had to learn is I feel like I'm drifting away from the confidence thing, but that was like probably like one of like the hardest moments in my life, because I wanted it so bad. Like it might seem so small, but I just really wanted to be a Brookline girl, and it just didn't happen.
Nah, that's hey. I love the story. I love the story. And I think you talked about on the and we've covered it, because we've talked about it in sense of the people that have been tuning in and really had their ears open about confidence. It comes in practice. It comes with experience. So you got to experience. You got to put yourself out there continuously to develop confidence, because and then sometimes you just gotta. It's a belief thing. And I know belief is a buzzword that's thrown around all the time, but it's the buzzword for a reason. There's certain like people push through. That's a buzzword because it's a buzzword for a reason. You got to push through. Belief, if you don't have it, it's going to be hard for you to really be truly confident. Mm-hmm. And we can go down a rat hole as far as like how to get a strong belief, because in order to believe, I mean, there's a method.
Yeah, there's so much there.
And it's like, we can't go there. We can't go there.
And we're both talkers. We'll be on this thing for like 20,000 hours on that topic.
We can't go there, even though it's necessary. I know people are like, dang, y'all can't go there. Yeah, no, that's something that, look on YouTube this summer. I got something for. Mm-hmm. All right. We almost at the coach change round, but my last question, before we get there, and then I got to ask a question about the future, what you got in store. But I since we're on this show, since you're another fellow podcaster, why do you think collaboration from a unit, how do you, this is a better question. How do you think podcasters can collaborate more? Yeah, that's a more positive oriented question, because I mean, there's a lot of, now every time I go on on things. There's a podcast, specific black women. Y'all just cannibalizing yourself. There's so much stuff. It's good though. I love it. Anytime you're pushing forward more people of color doing great things, I love it. But how can we leverage each other more? What do you think?
I definitely think that we have to not see each other as competitors, but see each other as we all can get a piece of the pie. And I think especially as, a black female podcaster, sometimes you can see other people who are doing the same thing. But I have no problem shouting out my fellow podcasters because, hey, everybody talks to their audience in a different way, right? Like no one's doing Dreams and Drive. No one can be me. So I don't see you as competition because, hey, I have my own unique way to shine. But I think sometimes in the podcasting game, you might see other people as competition. And that's just something that I think is detrimental to our success because there is power in numbers. And if you shout me out on your podcast or you retweet me or whatever, that's us building the line so that we all can have a piece of the pie and we all can eat and we all can win. And I think that as podcasters, there's just so many things that we each have learned that if we kind of have this central place for us to talk about and to share our knowledge, to have a collective of some sort, it would be really great for us to grow because a lot of the other big podcasters, as we were saying before, like, people like Lewis Howes, Marie Forleo, those names, they work together so they all can win, right? It might not be like the most not kosher, but you know what I mean, like there's definitely strategies that they use and they're winning and they're pulling their audiences, and I feel like it's something that we could do as well. But I just think sometimes we see people as competitors and we don't want to get out and engage, we don't want to go out and talk to other people. And I just think that at the core of it, we just need to try to put weekly I try to go into Twitter and retweet other people's stuff, and even if they don't return the favor, I don't care because I know that people appreciate if they know you're not only about yourself, right? And that's something else that I think is important to podcasting is you want to be of value, but you don't want to be selfish with your value that you're giving. And that's just something that I try to enact. And I just think that we as podcasters, hopefully we can do that as well. Like if you see something that can help somebody else out, don't be selfish with it. Forward that interview that might not work for you, but might work for somebody else, I am not I've helped people get onto Apple Podcast features, and it's fine because you getting on there is not I don't see it as a missed opportunity for myself. And I kind of believe in karma, and I think good things will come back to you if you help other people. Yeah.
I love that. And I don't know, is it going to be you or myself or whoever to kind of put some time in, some sweat equity, and at least putting a little, because there's groups out there, but but we'll talk offline. I think there's something that needs to be done in some capacity. It doesn't have to be as far as very structured to a sense, but something, because I know I see a lot of things that work for me that I would love to share. The people ask, I definitely give. And probably some things some gaps, some gray areas that I still don't know how to really get there to see other people are doing. So I think there's a lot of knowledge to be gained because we all are winning right now, but we all could win more if it's some sort of a unit. Because you've seen the blueprint, like you said, with a lot of other podcasters, YouTubers, whatever. It's just it's a circus. It's a circle. So, I think we need to have our own, circles in a sense, but we'll get there one day.
Shout out to Barry of Podcast in Color because she's been really good at trying to create a community
and
getting people. I love Barry. She's been on the podcast and she just loves podcasting because she loves this community so much. And she put together a brunch for women in New York City at Spotify that I was a co-facilitator at. And it's those type of things that are gonna help us because we just all need to kind of just know who else is out there because sometimes we just don't know who else is doing it, right? And that she's been really good for the community as well.
Yeah, shout out to her. I gotta connect with her because she put me on the list, and I really don't know too much about her. However, I know that she showed, when I first started, showed a lot of love. And I know she's curating a lot of stuff for the culture. She already has a lot of stuff, and I just want to be more tapped in and engaged. There's so many other podcasts. Even if I don't listen to their content, I love what they do, and I try to share it because I know it can help somebody. It's because there's so many. Even though there's a lot of black women podcasts, there's so many black women that are lost. So many white women are lost. So many European women are lost. So many black men are lost. A lot of people just lost. They need this type of content. That's the thing. That's why I love podcasting, because this is all uplifting and engaging content with purpose. And a lot of people don't have these conversations on a weekly basis. Some people in a yearly basis. You'd be surprised what type of, you think about your conversation right now. Listen, think about your conversation you usually have. Like, 9 out of 10. That's why you're probably listening now, because a lot, yeah, we can go there. We can go there. We're not going to go there. Side note, I need all my podcasts and whatnot to really get hip to Facebook advertising, Instagram advertising, and utilizing LinkedIn. It's getting, I see so many gaps, and so many people can take so many leaps if they started using these platforms, how they could be used, and it can grow so much faster and get so much more, space. But I'll leave that there. I'm not a guru at it, but I think I am pretty well at utilizing those tools. So I'll put something out there sometime this summer. Reach out to me if you have any questions, but I definitely think that's underutilized, underserved. And I wish more people, put some more bread into that. So, future round, like what's next for you in 2017? Dreams and Job podcast, stuff that you can share.
I definitely am working on, I want to do some type of live event before the end of the year. My listeners have been asking me for it. My 100th episode is going to be up this summer. I just want to now, I've gotten comfortable with podcasting. I think I kind of have my process down packed. But now it's time to challenge myself. It's time to create something new for the community. And I've always wanted Dreams and Drive to be a bigger entity, for it to be its own like media company of some sort. You know, it's now official. I have my LLC. I have my business check-in, all that stuff. So now I really got to lay the foundation for what I want it to be, because I want to be able to quit my full-time job, maybe do this full-time, and really grow out Dreams and Drive the brand. So have some stuff in the works for that.
Love that. And we definitely can connect online, because I think I'll have a pretty good blueprint to share after the summer, depending on what time, when you're going to do yours. I'll have a blueprint on, kind of from my perspective, because we're doing 5 cities this summer, and I'm documenting everything, and I should have a good framework on what's some things you can consider, what it looks like, and definitely connections on along the way. So, I'm with that. And I'm making a stop in DC too. So I need to figure out a way how I can incorporate, others in a sense. So I definitely, cause you're in DC, right?
No, I'm in Orange, New Jersey.
Oh, you're in New Jersey. Oh, I'm not making a stop in New Jersey, but I'm not going to New Jersey. I don't like New Jersey like that. I'm gonna delete that, but I don't.
Okay. And I'm running out on time, so yeah, I'm just letting you know. So
you're good. You're good.
Gotta get moving.
Matter of fact, I think we've covered enough. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna skip the culture change round. I'm gonna ask this last question, and we're gonna wrap it.
Okay.
All right, so I call myself the culture change agent, and I say that for a reason. And everybody that I bring on the show is a culture change agent in their own capacity. So if you could change one thing about society, most specifically our African American culture, what would it be and why?
Wow, that is a good, I gotta think about that one, Greg. If I could change one thing, what would I change? There's so much stuff. I really think there's power in education, and I think there's a lot of educational gaps within our communities. And I just want our youngsters to love learning more. And I mean, I'm making a really big assumption here, just because I think that there's a lot of things that depend on your love for learning, your access to education, right? There's just some schools, or just some like elementary schools who don't have resources, right? And I just think there's power in education. But with our digital society now, there's a lot of power in self-education, and like really just consuming more knowledge is available for consumption at a rate that it probably wasn't available before. And I just want our young people to realize, like, you can create your own path, right? Like, if you have an idea right now, you don't have to wait to go to college to see that enacted, right? You don't have to wait to get permission to see it happen. Like, you can learn how to do it and start building stuff from now. But I think within our communities, we have to just really foster that, and we have to nurture that. And I think a lot of times there's just so many politics going on in these inner city communities. There's just so many other things. We're forgetting about the kids are going to be the future of our societies, and how are we giving them the right tools so that they can create the change that we need to create. And those are just the things that I wish that we could see more of within our communities. Because like, I come from a neighborhood where people I've known from childhood are either dead, right? Dead or in prison or what? And why is that, right? And why is this cycle continuing to happen? And I think at some point we have to take responsibility for that individually. We have to say, all right, me as a parent, me as a sister, me as a brother, am I enforcing this? Am I nurturing this person's nurturing them down this line of, bad choices? How can I as an individual help somebody that I see in need, help a kid who just needs someone to talk to them? There's so many things I think we can do from a community level. We can't think the country's going to change if we don't start in our own backyards. And that's just something that I really want to see, at least with Dreams and Drive, is figure out how to make an impact on the community level, because that's where it all starts.
Wise words. Amen. So on that note, where can everybody find more information about Dreams and Drive? Dreams in Drive
Yes.
podcast. Your show, what did you got going on? Get more, because I know you have some phenomenal people that come on your podcast, phenomenal content. Where can we find you at online in the space?
So Dreams and Drive, you can listen to all our episodes at dreamsanddrive.com. We are also on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play. Like wherever you listen to podcasts, we are probably there. We are also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Dreams and Drive. And on the website, we have some cool stuff. If you want to get some free resources, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/free. If you want to join our Facebook group, go to dreamsanddrive.com/Facebook. There's some other cool stuff there as well. All our show notes have linked to a lot of great resources as well. And if you want to connect with me personally, you can go to my website, which is ranacampbell.com, or you can find me on social media. And this screen name is one that I've had since high school, so don't laugh at me. It's Rain, RAIN, Shine, SHINE, Love, LUV. So it's Rain Shine Love on social media, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. And that was kind of a philosophy I had from from high school. I've always had this motto, which was sunshine, rain, and dreams. Whatever you do in life is going to be good times, there's going to be bad times. But I think our dreams are what's going to motivate us to keep going. So just keep that in mind. And hopefully you guys check out the podcast and all that we're doing.
Love it. Minority Trouble Nation. Make sure you check out the podcast. Make sure you go to your podcast when you're listening to it. Leave a freaking review. And make sure you listen to this podcast, you leave a review. And thank y'all for y'all time. Once again, it's your boy Greg E. Hill, the Culture Change Agent, and I'm signing out. And I got one thing to say for you. What's that one thing, Mr. Hill? One thing: change the freaking culture. Good night.